welcome to the stage Abdurrahman Al-Nimari, Lead Cybersecurity System Architect at Mantech International Corporation.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قبل ما نبدأ, I have a question for the audience. Which do you prefer, Arabic or English? Arabic? Do you prefer Arabic? Please raise your hand. English? So I think I will switch between Arabic and English as needed. Okay. Actually, I hate to be the first to present or the last to present. Being the first, the audience is sleeping. Being the last, the audience is hungry. So I hope that my presentation would be interesting enough to wake you up and make you full. I will start by introducing myself. My name is Abdurrahman Al-Nimari. I lead the cybersecurity systems at Mantech International Corporation in Riyadh. I have 25 years experience, with 15 of them in information security. I am not that old though. You can find me almost on a daily basis on Twitter and sometimes on LinkedIn, my two favorite social networks. We will be talking today about a very important topic, which is threat hunting or hunting threats in your enterprise. This will be our agenda. First, we will define what is threat hunting. What do we mean by when we say threat hunting? Second, we will distinguish between threat hunting and incident response. The traditional incident response, how does it differ or match with threat hunting? And then we will put a threat hunting plan before we start. We will put a plan, a step-by-step plan, and see the requirements to have a successful threat hunting plan. After the plan, we will start our hunting cycle. Then we will have a demo to see how to do threat hunting in real life. And we will see the maturity level. How do you measure the maturity level of your organization? Or how mature are you in doing threat hunting? Finally, we will measure our success with creating some metrics, and we will find some useful resources. Before we start, please have a look at this chart. This is the latest Verizon data breach investigation report for year 2018. This chart is very disappointing to me. It represents, on this side, the time an adversary takes to achieve a complete compromise. And on this side, the time an organization needs to detect that adversary attempt. If you look here, 87% of most compromises, 87% of them takes minutes or less to achieve a complete compromise of your enterprise. Look at the word less. Minutes or less. What is less than a minute? What's less than a minute? Seconds, right? Can we achieve a compromise within seconds? The answer is yes. You can use any automated exploitation tool like Metasploit, for example, to achieve a complete compromise and have full persistent on certain enterprises within seconds only. And this is not bad. What's bad though is that the organization doesn't know anything about it. Only 3% of the enterprises can discover that immediately. 3% only. 68% of them will take months before they know that they are compromised. Imagine that adversaries take this long time, months, on your enterprise, doing all types of data exfiltration, spying on your confidential stuff, breaking the integrity of your network, and for months, and you don't know anything about them. Okay, So what's the solution? The solution is to threat hunt. This is the answer to that. Okay, before we start, let us define what do we mean when we say threat hunting. We have two definitions. The first one is taken from Wikipedia, which is the standard definition. Threat hunting is the process of proactively and iteratively searching through networks to detect and isolate advanced threats that evade existing security solutions. This is number one. Definition number two, cyber threat hunting is the practice of searching iteratively through data to detect advanced threats that evade traditional security solutions. We have firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, DLP, all types of security solutions. Still, adversaries adapt very quickly. So they invent new ways of exploiting your enterprise. So the key word here, there are two keywords on these two definitions: proactive and iterative. So threat hunting is a proactive plan. You don't wait for something to happen. You start before it happens. And you do it in a loop. You iteratively go through that loop to find all adversary attempts. Okay, how does threat hunt differ from incident response? Number one, incident response is a reactive plan. You wait for an alert that comes from your firewall, from your IPS, from your IDS, and then you act accordingly. So you just sit waiting for your tools, security tools, to tell you that someone is trying to exploit your enterprise. And then you react. Threat hunting is proactive on the other hand. You don't wait. You start immediately. Before something happens, you are already ready for it. It's alert-based. This one is iterative. We are looping through it. So these are the differences between the two. This is the threat hunt plan. These are very, very, very important steps that we have to make sure that each step is achieved before we start our threat hunting. Number one, design your network for threat hunting. Make sure that your enterprise as a design is ready to do threat hunting. First step. Number two, get your team ready. And don't be scared with the word team, because team can be just one engineer. I have seen so many enterprises using one engineer to be the major analyst and to do other stuffs beside that. So your one engineer could be the team that we mean here. Know your enterprise. You have to know everything about your enterprise. I have seen one of my colleague speakers saying that you can't protect what you don't know. That's what we know by know your enterprise. Before you start, know what you have. Next, collect hunt data. In order to hunt properly, you should have some data. The data, we mean the logs that you have. Okay? And then know your adversary TTP. Do you know the TTP? Tools, technique, and processes of the adversary. How they are, what tools they are using, how they are using it, what techniques are they using to penetrate your enterprise. And finally, after you achieve these steps, you start your hunting. Now let us go through these steps one by one to know how to do it the proper way. Number one, design your enterprise for hunting. This is a very basic network diagram. It's very basic. Your diagram might be completely different. What's interesting about this are these steps, these things that we have to make sure that we achieve them in this diagram. Number one is the segmentation. You have to make sure that your enterprise is segmented enough to make it hard for the adversary to go from one segment to another, so that if one segment is compromised, the other one is safe, and put trust level between these different segments. Okay? You don't want to have a one flat network. It will not be easy for you to monitor it, to protect it, and it will be very easy for the adversary to compromise flat networks. Next, after you segment your network properly, what do we mean by segmentation? Like you have a data center zone, you have internal zone, you have database zone, and you have your monitoring tools at what we call CSOC or SOC, Security Operation Center. So different levels of trust inside your enterprise. Next, deploy all the protection technologies to this enterprise. Put firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, DLP systems where needed. For example, here I am putting this firewall or cluster of firewalls to be the default gateway of other security zones, so that I will make sure that no traffic goes from one security level to another security level without being inspected by the firewall first and logged. Okay? Next, tapping. I can't stress enough the importance of tapping your traffic. Having a dump of the packets that goes from anywhere to anywhere in your enterprise, especially, very special, on the border of your network. If you are connected to an ISP, a third-party vendor, a partner, all these entry points should be tapped, so that whenever there is an incident that happens, you have some reference to go to. You have dump of buckets. You can search them, you can investigate them. And we have to achieve visibility. What do I mean by visibility? Your monitoring tools to do threat hunting properly should have visibility of the entire enterprise. How do we achieve visibility? I don't mean by visibility, I don't mean the assets, not necessarily the assets only, but the events that happen in your network. What's happening? I want to know everything that happens inside the network. How can I achieve that? Deploy your logging the proper way. For example, I always like to put on my Windows infrastructure to deploy Microsoft sysinternal Sysmon tool. Who knows Sysmon? Can you raise your hand, please? Sysmon. Sysmon. Wow, no one. 1, 2. Sysmon is a Microsoft tool. It is from sysinternals. What's the purpose of this tool? It complements the event features of Microsoft Windows. Of course, in Windows, we have logging. This logging cannot log all activities of Windows. For example, if a process is started and it is communicating to a command and control outside your enterprise, this command and control is not by default or by Microsoft tools, logging tools, is not logged. Here where comes Sysmon. Sysmon will log this traffic and so many other features in it. You just deploy it to your endpoints, to your servers, and everywhere, and it will integrate itself inside Microsoft natively, because at the end it is a Microsoft tool. And I like to use WEF, Windows Event Forwarding. And on the other hand, WEC, Windows Event Collector. WEF and WEC are two native Windows services. The first one, the forwarding, is that it takes all the events, forward them to a central repository server, which is the WEC, Windows Event Collector. You can deploy WEC servers as many as you want. It depends on how big your enterprise is. Deploy different WECs, have different segment of your networks, enabling WEF, and send logs to them in Windows native logging format. And then after that, you can take it from WEC to your SIM solution or your CSOC. And finally, NTP. Please, audience, who knows what NTP is? Raise your hand. NTP. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, quite very good. Network time protocol. It is very important. If NTP is not working properly in your enterprise, everything is useless. Why? Because NTP will stamp your traffic, your logs, your events with the date, the time, to the second. So that when something evil happens, you take this log and you can correlate it with another log, and you can correlate the two to a packet dump. So you can correlate them all. Imagine that your enterprise is not synced properly. You don't have NTP. If you don't have NTP, you will end up having different timestamps on your buckets and logs, and everything will be useless. Okay. Get your team ready. Your team should know everything about networking, about operating systems, about procedures. And don't be afraid. You shouldn't have this many of people. You could have only one. But make sure that this one is qualified enough to do threat hunting. He should know about the operating system internals. What do you mean by internal? The processes, the file structure, the registry, and the specifics of each operating system. How do you want to know that there is something wrong with a Windows box if you don't know what is normal in a Windows box? So you have to know everything about it. They should know about application protocol behavior. They should know about threat hunting tools. They should know about IR procedures. And they should be creative. Is creativity that important? It is in threat hunting. Because in threat hunting, you are not reactive, you are proactive. You are anticipating what's going to happen. You are anticipating the steps of your adversary. You keep on asking yourself questions, and then you are answering these questions. So you should be creative in your question. Determination. If your threat hunter is not determined enough, he will get fed up so quickly. So they should be determined enough to do it again and again and again. Okay, know your enterprise. How do you know your enterprise? Number one, you should have a list of your assets, your digital assets, either physical or virtual. Everything in your enterprise should be listed. Next, prioritize this list, because on some enterprises, if you have the list of the assets, you will find that the list is very huge and it is very difficult to protect and monitor them. What's the solution? Put the most critical assets first. Focus on them. Monitor them. Do threat hunting on them. That's prioritization. Know threats to your assets. Each asset, bring it, put it in an Excel sheet. On this column, the asset. The other column, what threats that this asset could face from an adversary. And base your threats on the CIA model. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. What could affect the confidentiality of this asset, the integrity of this asset, and the availability of this asset? Know all the threats, list them in the sheet, and next, baseline your network. For example, if you have a look at this chart, what's wrong with it? It is consistent from here until here. There is a spike, right? What's the meaning of this spike? This is an outlier. What's wrong here? This could be good, could be bad. It could be good if this is an application at the peak time which is utilized at this time. This is normal. If there is no application at this time, this is not normal. You should investigate it. How do you know that? By baselining your network. You should know what is normal and what is not normal. Just by looking at this chart, you understand what good or bad things is happening in your network. Okay, now we want to collect our data. When you do threat hunting, you do it on the data that you have, the packets, the net flows, the log data. Where do I get this information? You get them from 3 data domains: from the network, from the host, or the application. From the network, flow data, for example, net flow. I can't stress enough the importance of getting net flow. Net flow will summarize your network traffic. If you are dumping your packets, in a very short time, you will end up having terabytes of packets. On the other hand, you have a summary of these terabytes in a net flow file, which is only megabytes. Terabytes, megabytes. Okay? So network, what type of data we have? Flow, PCAP, DNS, proxy logs, firewalls, switches, routers. All these can be logged and sent to a central repository. Second one, the host, the antivirus, the EDR, the firewall, Windows and sysmon events, file system, auto-runs. We will see a demo on auto-runs. Application is the authentication, transaction logs, database logs, security alerts, and these are the type of the data, again, summarized here. Log data, PCAP for network traffic, NetFlow for traffic summary, and these 2, threat intelligence feed and analytics. What's analytics? If you have a sandbox in your network, this is an analytic solution. Get the logs from this, feed it to your threat hunt. It will be very useful. Okay, threat intelligence feeds. What do we mean by threat intelligence? I mean, we have to be be knowledgeable about the threat landscape in the world. What's happening? What threats do we have right now in the world? What type of malware, botnets, DDoS attacks are happening? Where can I get this information? You can get it from the threat intelligence feeds. There are 2 types. There are open source and there are paid feeds. Open source feeds are quite very useful for companies who cannot afford to pay for a commercial threat feed. These are some of the companies that provide open source and free threat intelligence feeds. First one is Alien Vault, IOC Buckets, Abuse.ch, Blacklist, VirusTotal, and Malware.com. You can take all these, take the feeds from them, merge it, make use of it in your threat hunting. Okay, now we are going step by step on our threat hunting plan. Number 1, we know our enterprise and design it. Number 2, we got our team ready. Number 3, we want to know our adversaries. How do they think? And what tools are they using? These are tools that are very important in knowing it. 2, 4, 6, 7 steps. Anyone who dealt with these steps before, please raise your hand. Is it familiar to you? The cyber kill chain. Okay, what's cyber kill chain? It is the different steps that an adversary takes during its exploitation of your enterprise. Number 1, recon. What's recon? جمع البيانات أو المعلومات. Fingerprinting, observation, open source intelligence. يجمع البيانات هنا. Number 2, weaponize. Get their tools ready. يجهز عدة إنه يعمل أتاك عليك. Number 3, delivery. بعد ما يجهزها, how can I deliver these tools to your box? I can use spear phishing, email, I can put a link on a chat application and send it to you. And then the exploit. After I deliver it, how can I exploit your system? After that, how can I install my tools inside your system? And when I succeed in installing tools, I achieve CNC, command and control channel. And finally, I will start exfiltrating data and spying on your enterprise. إيش نستفيد من هذه كلها? Is that each step can be monitored. I group them into 3 groups. Look there. These 2 steps here happens when the attack is in planning. It is the planning phase of the attack. These 2. Okay. The other 3 attacks in progress. Attacks has started, but it is not finished yet. It is in progress. And finally, attacks already happening in your enterprise. So when you threat hunt, where do you threat hunt? Here, the middle, attacks in progress. Only? What about this one? Yes, we attack that already happened. Why? Because security tools sometimes will not be intelligent or smart enough to detect everything. So there might be some compromise on your network, as we see on the first slide, and you don't know about it. How do you know about it? By threat hunting attacks that already happened. So use these two steps to discover أو تعرف attacks that has already happened on your enterprise now. يجي واحد يسأل very important question. How do I do that? How can I do it? How can I achieve? How can I check if my compromise, if my enterprise is compromised or not? Okay, there are some steps. This one is the MITRE attack. Do you know what MITRE is? MITRE. It's an American organization. If you don't know them, you should know them. You should go to Google and search for MITRE and see the tools that they have. They have very, very, very good and excellent tools. One of them is the attack model. This. When we ask ourselves, how do we achieve threat hunting? How do we threat hunt attacks that has already happened in our enterprise? This question can be answered by using this model. Okay? They call it attack. Attack, ATT, ampersand, CK. Equal, what does it mean? Adversarial, tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. Okay? And they are dividing it to different categories. For example, initial access. How an attacker achieve initial access in your enterprise? They use these things. Okay? Number 1, drive-by compromise. We all know what's the meaning of drive-by. You go to a website. This website, you don't know about it. It happens that this website is compromised by someone before, and it has malware inside it. You click one link, and you get affected. Okay? So it is not my network or my machine or my host that is evil. It's another website that was compromised by someone. So here are, if you click on this one, drive-by compromise, it is a link. If you go to MITRE website, click on this, it will take you to explanation. What does this mean? How do you protect against it? What tools are used? How adversaries are using this to compromise your machine, your enterprise, your email, the different steps. This is only one. Execution, persistence. We don't have time to go through them all, but you know the idea. It is different categories of how those people can compromise your enterprise. 5. Okay. Start hunting, creating hypothesis. How do we start hunting? This is the last step in our plan. كيف نبدأ الهنت? Ask yourself questions. Okay? In my enterprise, for example, أسأل نفسي سؤال. هل حدث عندي اختراق قبل كده ولا لا؟ هذا سؤال. إيش نوع الاختراق؟ هل في data exfiltration عندي ولا لا؟ هل عندي lateral movement؟ في عندي شخص قاعد ينتقل من جهاز لجهاز نسميها lateral movement. The technical name is lateral movement from one host to another. Is there a lateral movement in my enterprise right now? Okay, fileless malware. Malware got sophisticated. They don't download files to your system. They just execute them in memory so that AVs, ADR cannot detect them. Imagine that. Okay. Command and control. Are there any command and controls in my system? هذه كلها أسئلة أنت قاعد بتسأل نفسك. هل في إلى آخره. طيب بعدين بعد السؤال الداتا. هل في عندي lateral movement؟ كيف أعرف؟ من البي كابز واللوجز. ابحث في البي كابز واللوجز. أبحث عن إيه؟ ابحث عن مثلا عن البي اس اكس اكس equal PowerShell. هذه two tools that are used in lateral movements. You can check your logs. Is there any machine or user who ever used these two tools in your enterprise? If there is, investigate. It could be legitimate. An administrator is using PowerShell in managing your enterprise, or it could be evil. Someone is using PowerShell to download some code, execute it in memory, which is what? Fileless malware. Okay? I hope that we had enough time to discuss it more, but no problem. When we start the hunting, this is the loop. You start by creating your hypotheses. What's the meaning of hypotheses? In English, what does it mean, hypothesis? فرضية، افتراض. مجموعة من الافتراضات اللي بنفترضها، اللي هي الأسئلة السابقة اللي سألنا أنفسنا إياها. Create hypothesis. عندنا hypothesis. Investigate via tools and techniques. Uncover. وبعدين inform and enrich your analytics. هذه اللوب. لاحظ في هذه اللوب نقعد نعمل لوب دائما، لكن في شرط في هذه اللوب، شرط مهم جدا. لو سألت نفسك سؤال، عندي مثلا فايللس مالوير، جاوبت عليه وجدت. ثاني يوم عندي مايلس فالوير، again جاوبت. ثالث مرة قاعد بتسأل نفسك نفس السؤال again and again and again and again. This is wrong. You shouldn't do that. You should do it once, twice, 3 at maximum. After that, what happens? You take this question to security operations. It becomes an operation in your enterprise. This is one of the benefits of threat hunting. You are feeding your operations by your findings. What you find, you take it to the operation. This is the maturity level. How good you are doing threat hunting. You go from level 0 to level 4, from initial, minimal, procedural, innovative, leading. I will leave it for you to read the differences between each one. This is what they call the pyramid of pain. How painful an exploitation is for us as security professionals to detect. If you are using hash values or IP addresses or domain names as in threat intel feeds, you are at maturity level 0, maturity level 0. If you are using network or host artifacts, you are at maturity level 1. If you are challenging and tough, you know the procedures and tactics and tools that an adversary, and you are adapting yourself, you are at maturity level 2 or more. Hunting in action, this is the demo. Suppose that we have a malicious IP address. بحثت لقيت IP address which is proved to be malicious. One IP or group of IP addresses. كيف عرفنا انه malicious from a threat intelligence field? ايش نسوي معاه؟ Go check this IP address in your network flow. Do you find it in your network flow? If you find it, what's the next step? Internal IP. we check it and we found that it is talking to some of or one of the internal IP addresses in your enterprise. إذا هذا IP address خبيث قاعد بيتكلم مع أحد الأجهزة الموجودة عندنا في الانتربرايز. We have to investigate. You take this internal IP address and look for it in your network flow again. And then if you find anomaly, something suspicious, you take the timestamp of that suspicious activity where وفاينل investigate the bcap logs. هذا التولز من قد استخدمه auto runs. Whoever used this tool, this is a Microsoft tool from sys internals. They call it auto runs. If you run it on your system, it will give you all persistent applications in your system. كل البرامج اللي بتعمل ستارت لما جهازك يشتغل. في برامج بتعمل اوتو ستارت لما الجهاز يشتغل في البدايه. كيف تعمل اوتو ستارت؟ في عندك different ways. ممكن تكون في الريجستري اوتو ستارت، ممكن تكون موجوده كسيرفيس في السيستم، ممكن تكون موجوده كبراوزر بلجن، ممكن تكون موجوده كسكيجوال تاسك الى اخره. المالوير دائما تستخدم هذه الطريقه. اوكي؟ احنا حنستخدمها اليوم. لو جيت البرنامج اللي قبل شويه شفناه اوتو رانز، في منه تو فيرجن، واحده قوي لها شاشه والثانيه كوماند لاين. ناخذ الكوماند لاين نعمل له انستول على اجهزتنا، على كافه الاجهزه. ممكن 5 minutes. اوكي. ناخذ الريزلتس baseline it with virus total or the hash. Compare it to virus total or the hash. If you find anomalies, you investigate it, you automate the process and go back again. Okay. أخيراً لما نعمل threat hunt، المدراء الموجودين عندنا your executive level managers, they don't know what you are doing, right? They know nothing. They know nothing about what we are talking about. They don't know the headache behind everything here, right? You should let them know. What's the way? Create metrics. Create metrics. Come and tell me, how many incidents by severity have you investigated this month? How many incidents? I am an executive. You have investigated 100 incidents, for example, this month. Write it. Next, number of compromised hosts. How many hosts were compromised? Dwell time of incident discovers، وانا حاطها بالاحمر بس ما في وقت عشان نشرحها، اللي هو الوقت اللي بياخذه الاتاكر من اول ما يدخل للسيستم لغايه ما انت تنظف السيستم تماما منه. Logging gaps identified, vulnerabilities, insecure practices, hunts associated, new visibilities gained. هذه طبعا السورسز المتبقيه اللي ممكن ترجع لها و your questions. Yes, please. How many minutes do we have for questions? There is one here. Here.
انا بس عايز اسال حضرتك اتكلمت على الان تي بي سيرفر، هل الدومين كنترولر
عن ايش؟
الان تي بي نتورك تايم بروتوكول.
ايوه.
هل الدومين كنترولر از ان تي بي يبقى كافي في الاورجنايزيشن ولا حضرتك بتقترح حاجه ثانيه؟
The most important thing in NTB is to have 1 or 2 master servers that all your endpoints are synced to. And it depends on the organization. There are some organizations who doesn't use Microsoft Domain Controller as an NTB server. They use some other source. You can use your router, your switch, your Windows, your Linux. All these have NTB services inside them. You can use them. Make sure that everybody else is synced to this source. اوكي.
السؤال الثاني النت فلو، انا عارف اللي هو يعتبر جريت بروتوكول يعني او جريت فيتشر، بس في بعض الاحيان بتبقى نوت ريكومندد من الفندور اتسيلف.
النت فلو
يعني تشغيله بيتيك مور ماتش ريسورسز، فهل كاركتكتشر ليفل في بديل للنت فلو؟
That's not true. NetFlow is a very important protocol to use on your network. But you have to understand NetFlow properly. If you have 1 terabyte of PCAP logs, raw packet data, these terabytes can be summarized in megs of NetFlow data. But we have to remember what's NetFlow. NetFlow doesn't have any packet payload. It has only source, destination IPs, source destination ports, the protocol, the number of the bytes, the flags, the TCP flags. These are the information that NetFlow help you with. So it is very important. The vendor who told you so, he is not right at all. NetFlow is very important, and all network devices, most of them, they support NetFlow.
اخر سؤال حضرتك اقترحت ان يكون في ايفنت لوك كوليكتور او كولكشن. لو انا عندي سيم سوليوشن وفي اللوك سورسز دي كامله، انا مش محتاج كده اعمل لوك كوليكتور يسمع او يفيد السيم سوليوشن. هل ينفع يبقى في دايركت كونكشن باللوكس دي والكورليشن وخلاص ولا؟
It all depends on your enterprise. How many hosts do you have? All the enterprise could use only one server. If it's huge, so many collectors connected to a repository. So it depends on the number of hosts that you have in your enterprise.
Thank you.
Yes? Question?
First of all, I want to thank you very much for the information you provided so far. It's very useful. The question I do have, to be honest, this is my first time to hear about the threat hunting, and I find it very useful so far. But as a head of IT internal audit who is trying to act as an advisory host for an organization, how can I enforce or just put it on the table for our information security department to start performing these kind of threat hunting, given that it's, I can see it's a combination between detective, okay, it's not only detective, it gives us a detective, and it forces them just to do an extra mile in terms of identifying the threats. Because you just also mentioned that when, even when you are preparing a team, they need to have this creativity.
Yes.
So they need to go for an extra mile. It's not only about looking at logs or keeping the logs in a safe place and just coming back to them when needed. So is there a framework or a best practice where we can just, you know, use when we are discussing these kind of stuff with top management? Because to be honest, here we are trying just to enforce more activities on a department which sees itself as a very busy department within an enterprise. Thank you very much.
Okay. The first part of your question, how to convince management to do threat hunting, right? The best way is to create metrics. As I told you before, create metrics and let them know that you have achievement. Let them know that threat hunting is beneficial to their enterprise. They have to see something. Tell them that I have discovered this month, I used threat hunting, I discovered 1,000 intrusion attempt. This is number one. The second part of your question, if there is a framework or a standard for threat hunting is a dynamic process. So it's always changing. The tools and techniques and processes are always changing. So there is no, of course, there is best practice. You can go to, there are so many sources. The last slide in my presentation have these sources. They are very informative for how to do threat hunting the optimal way.
Yes, my question is not related to the know-how, just performing this. My question is related to enforcement. So how can I just explain the risk? Okay, and the only mitigating control that I can have is having a threat hunting process, proper process within an enterprise.
In my opinion, threat hunting is not an expensive process to have. So you can start it with your standard IR, okay? And then you evolve from there. You create metrics, you do threat hunt, create more metrics, let your executive know about your movement. You are evolving in your process as being a good threat hunter. At the same time, you are evolving in convincing your management that this is a good thing to do.
One last question. Just, is it linkable to the business? So the threats that I can identify as a part, is it linkable to the business?
Of course.
Perfect.
One example,
Okay.
a banking application is going down. How much will that cost? How much will it cost to the enterprise? It will cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it's directly linkable to the business.
Cheers.